Thanks. So welcome, welcome. We're really excited to have you here. So these tech leader chats are geared for engineering leaders who care about people and also are committed to equity and inclusion. And so lovely engineering, but also open to other people working in tech too. So very welcome. So I'm just to introduce a few of us who'll be supporting along the way. I'm Lauren. I'm the CEO and founder of Multitudes. We do ethical analytics and recommendations to unlock happier and higher performing engineering teams. And then James will be running the questions and doing all the background tech and breakout rooms and all of that. And then we've got Vivek who'll be, so another Multitudes team member who'll be jumping in. So that's a few of us in the background. And we've run through the plan for the day. So I'm going to just go ahead and introduce Wen, because that's why we're all here. So we're stoked to have Wen coming on board. I met Wen probably middle of last year. And literally at the time we were just setting up these chats and just figuring out the speaker roster. And we knew that she was someone that we needed to come in and have speak. She is someone who is very open about her own learning and her own journey along the way. Really, she's someone who really exemplifies that Brene Brown, the modeling vulnerability so that there's space for others. And this topic in particular, it can be a vulnerable one. Conflict, we know, comes up in all sorts of ways in the workplace. And so we knew that she would be the perfect person to speak on this. It's something that we've gotten a lot of requests about, both around giving feedback at work or just tough conversations, disagreements. So yeah, really stoked to have Wen here. In terms of the more formal background, she's the founder and chief transformation officer at Wen Coaching. And she's got a wealth of experience from being an engineering leader. She worked at both Patreon and Switchfly. And her focus is really, she brings strategic thinking, but her focus is really around building self-sustaining teams and creating empathetic leaders. So with that, let me hand it over to Wen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren, for the fantastic introduction. So welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. And I learned that this talk to me is actually quite loaded. Yep. And Lauren has talked a lot about how most people would know about me, like on LinkedIn, etc. And what really intrigued me with this topic is that I actually struggled with conflict almost my entire life. From my upbringing as like an Asian woman, where I'm taught to stay quiet, right? To stay harmony. And in the sense that I learned that conflict is something to avoid. And because of that, I bring what I learned into, how I work. Also, when I become an engineering leader. And, it works somehow, but not always. That's why we're all here still trying to find out how to figure it out. And so for this talk, I actually have two parts for you. One is my personal story about how I came to the awareness and actually in a coaching session that changed my relationship with, maybe someone needs to be muted, changed my relationship with conflict completely. And then second part, I'm going to share some slides, basically walk you through like what I learned and the I called it the inside out approach that I developed, that I used on myself, on my direct reports, my peers, and now my clients. Okay. So like I mentioned, I'm so used to avoid conflict. Often I don't even notice it when this happened. I just default to not engage, not say too much. And of course, this doesn't work in a new relationship. So when I was in like the first year of a new relationship with my partner, we often have arguments and conflicts where, it's so much tension, so uncomfortable. Sometimes like we shout at each other, and sometimes we just don't talk for days. I bet this all happened to us. And as this continue to happen, I really wonder, how do I make this work? Oh my God. And luckily for me, I have a coach at that time. And in our coaching session, usually we talk about career. But he said something is weird for me. The energy wasn't right. So he asked me about what happened, and I told him. And I just basically skipped through like the events and wanting to get on to like the important career topic. But then he asked me, it seems like this is bothering you now. Like, what is it? So he started asking me like 4 questions, literally changed how I see conflicts. And the first question he asked me is, what is it that you really want? And without a doubt, I'm like, of course, I want to build great relationship, right? That's why I even avoid conflicts, because it doesn't feel good to be in conflict. And the okay.
We just
Do you hear
lost
me
you
now?
for a second. Well, yeah, you're back now. So we
Okay.
got the first question, but not the second.
Okay, great. So the second question completely blew my mind, because he asked me, how well is what you're doing getting you what you want? When I hear that question, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing the exact opposite. By not talking to my partner about what I really think, I actually robbed her the opportunity to understand my perspective, or to even know I'm angry. It's crazy. And then I created this story in my head about how he is not respectful of me, things like that. So I don't give her an opportunity to talk about her side of story. And then my coach asked, so how is what you're doing costing you? I was like, it's gonna cost my relationship if I continue to do this and don't show up, don't engage, and avoiding conflicts. And the fourth one literally changed my world. He asked, so where else do you see this pattern showing up? And at that moment, I was like, ouch. Because I see it in how I talk to my family. I see, especially at work, every time, I have a new PM or my friend turn, coworker for me, I just didn't know how to express like some of the changes or improvements, etc. I really want to see, because my default is to avoid conflict, right? So the good things with that awareness is that then I get to choose, because I learned that what I have been doing is not getting what I really want. Not only, it's actually every relationships, right? At work, at home, everything. Then I get to make a different choice. So from that moment on, I made the commitment to myself, I'm going to stay engaged. Doesn't matter how uncomfortable it is. And I do this because I'm coming from care, coming from wanting to really build that relationship that works for us. So I'm happy to announce that actually my partner and I are getting married this year. So I get some sort of those 3 works, and I apply similar mindset shift and continue to try, right? With all the conflicts that I see with my team, especially being in the Bay Area, leading a team of very diverse people. I have experience with like nearshoring, offshoring. You can just imagine how much conflict actually coming out from time zone, different culture, misunderstanding, everything. And from there, I start to develop what I call an inside-out approach to get to kind of like the bottom of conflicts and really choose how I want to respond to conflict. Great. So here I'm going to pause and share my screen. Right. Okay. Can you all see it? Great. Awesome.
Great.
So when I think about the topic of conflict, this is like the picture that really pop up that I want to show you. Because conflicts, especially when we're in it, we feel the heat, we feel the tension, oftentimes we feel the anger, we feel the hurt, right? It's so hard for us to get through that emotion and feel like you're not like personally attacked or, you know, fighting out like higher perspective. But truth is, conflicts are really people taking stand to protect something that matters to them. So it is the same for you and for the other party. So when we are in conflict, there are two common reactions. One is flight. We feel the need to be right. And in that sense, we could win the battle, but still lose the war. And the second is flight. We could get disengaged, which was my default pattern, where we keep ourselves out of the equation. And on the surface, it seems fine, but not speaking up really create this fake peace that leads to stagnation and resentment, which was my case as well. And I pull up this image because I want to show you underneath the surface of conflicts, you'll find that the two people are actually feeling the same deeper emotions. So when we are able to coming from this place of, you know, no one is here to create conflict on purpose, right? We're all here to protect something that we believe in. Then we get to make a different choice. We get to elevate our thinking such that, yes, conflict creates tension, but at the same time, it can also create intimacy and invention. So it's not something to be afraid of, but something to be welcomed. And how I turned it into something that works for me is actually start from me, because conflict differ from situations and people. But one thing that's common is you, it's me, it's us that's within that conflict. So the change really start from within. So the shift, the first one is to really start to seeing tensions and conflicts in different light. All right, so the first one is actually seeing it as a gift to understand yourself better. Why are you triggered? What's the value that's not respected? And the 4 magic questions that my coach has asked me. When I are able to get into why is it that I take things personally, I start to be able to clear it out and also connect back to why is it that's so important to me and what do I really, really want to achieve here. And when I can get back to that space of, okay, I'm here for a reason and I want this relationship to work, then we're way more open and curious about how to find the best way to resolve conflicts. And that leads me to the second part, the second gift, which is to build stronger relationships, because conflicts are such a clear signal for any misalignment. We get to ask ourselves, what is missing here? Is it information, context, mutual goals, or some sort of communication gaps? And oftentimes be curious about what the other party really care about, where are they coming from? So we can seek to first understand, then to be understood. And this is really the best opportunity for us to learn about each other and to include our differences, and also understand we might have something that's mutual for us to start working with. So time after time, I bring my team and client through questions and process like this, where I actually get to see after the conflict, we get to build even stronger trust and relationships, and we get to build better process and bridge those gaps that we see in the misalignment. And the third one is actually a gift to be creative, right? In this case, once we, me and other party or everyone on the team get a better understanding of where we're all coming from, then we get to tap into everyone's talent. Given so many different perspectives, what can we create together here? And what's the bigger picture from different perspectives? We get to think win-win and hopefully come up with the solutions that will work for most. And I also want to mention that not everything is like roses. So there, of course, there will be times that it still does not work. And from my experience, I also want to say that if that's the case, having no deal, meaning walk away, is actually an option too, because you have learned about yourself, knowing where you're coming from, knowing where other people are coming from. There might be some collision in values or in things that you don't want to stand for. And in that sense, it might be completely okay to walk away and say, hey, this is not for me, I'm good. And in that sense, it just gives us so much more space to work with. We can always find new work and new relationship if, we decided that's not working for us. So this is basically how the system I use to turn how I look at conflict into something, actually 3 gifts that will work for me, for the team, and also like to have a much, much better outcome that we all want. So that's the end of my slide. So let me pause here, and I want to open it up for Q&A.
Amazing. Well, thank you. I'll do a quick thanks while people are thinking of other questions. Feel free to put them in the chat. But yeah, just a couple things I wanted to highlight that resonated so deeply for me. One was around that point that actually conflict there's a kindness, and we obviously we can raise it in different ways, but seeking to improve things, there's a kindness in that. Really resonated with that, and loved that reframing of conflict from conflict as a bad thing to conflict as actually thinking about it for the gifts that it can give us. I think that's really, really helps us focus instead on what we can get out of it. So yeah, with that, we'll open it up. James will take it away with questions. Just huge thank you. I know we got some questions beforehand, and then also, you have other questions that came up during Wen's chat. Feel free to add them.
Great. Thank you again so much, Wen. That was so exciting. I'm happy to dive into these questions. The first one comes from Bianca Gibson, which is, do you have any advice for navigating a situation where it doesn't appear there is positive intent, although it is in the context of a company culture that is placing emphasis on assuming positive intent? How do you navigate that difference?
Great question. I guess like in the face of conflict, there are many situations like similar to this, right? And similarly, I will always check in with myself and see, based on who I am and the values that I have, what seems right for me to do, right? And in this case, I will probably call out the incongruence of not respecting the inclusive culture, right? It's like the elephant in the room. Once we call it out, we can have a great discussion and really find ways to change that. But if we don't, if we dodge the bullet around it, usually like there's interesting thing about human. We are also animal body. So oftentimes we can sense how the other person really feel. And in this case, I would really feel like trust what you feel is right to do and call it out. Just be open if, especially that's the company culture that you want to build. So you also want to create that space to have an open conversation and hold people accountable, right, for what they subscribe to. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next question from Lydia is, how do you adapt your approach to conflict when dealing with a diverse set of people on the team? How do you know the right way to approach conflict with different people?
Great question. Because it's diverse, and that's where I think extra, I guess, care and understanding is even more crucial, right? In the way, I think like doesn't matter how big the team is or what's the issues, culture, gender, or whatever, right? That's why I showed that picture earlier from the Burning Man. Because the thing is, deep down, we want to create the culture where we truly believe that when we work as a team, we care, right? We care about each other. We want to find mutual solutions. And that care also extends to when you are different from me, I want to be curious to learn about you, right? What's your perspective? Things like that. And if it's a big team, it's diverse, it might be even better for open conversation for us to really learn about each other. So before I have like happy hour, it can really be any form, right? Where we get to learn where people are coming from, and then from there, really build that foundational understanding and trust to even before we get to figure out a solution. Because the thing with conflicts is that if you don't feel heard, the resistance will always be there. And when you feel heard, you're open to see other people's perspective. And that's, I think, where, especially in a diverse team, it will work. Thank you.
That's great. What is your process for preparing for a tough conversation? How do you understand yourself and then get ready to have that conversation?
Great questions. I have so many throughout my tech career. I think the biggest one is to understand where you're coming from, what you want to convey, right? So I have a pretty tough conversation with a direct report where I really feel like we just don't see eye to eye to each other, even when I, really do my best to understand her. And in that sense, like some of the conversations very easy to be like misinterpreted, right? If we cannot be on the same page, right? And in that sense, it's really a lot of openness and vulnerability. And which is why I say it's very important to know where you are coming from, because I'm coming from a place where I'm your manager. It's my job to give you feedback like this, right? And I understand maybe we're not on great footing, but I do this because I care about you. I want you to grow, right? I know the tension that you feel, I feel it too, but it's in my best interests to help you grow. So are you willing and open to have a conversation with me? Here's what I see, fact. right? And kind of like the conversation start going on from there. But I think that the first thing is to really like settle in and understand how do you really want to show up in that situation. So like you don't get hijacked. You have clear understanding of what's the objective that you want to achieve there. Thank you.
So the next question from Polly is, when people sit down, when you can find what's happening and work on it, that's great. But everyone wants to get better. What tips would you have to keep going with a one-sided relationship?
One-sided relationship, what does that mean? Polly? Is Polly here?
Sorry, I'm just having lunch.
Yeah, no problem.
I just had a misspelling there. So I know that not everyone wants to get better.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, relationships has both sides. So what happens when it's only one side trying to get things better and the other one doesn't? What tips would you give to keep this one side relationship? Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for the context. It is helpful. That's why I put it in the last point that no deal sometimes is an option too. And I say that because, like you said, if it's one-sided relationship and you keep trying and nothing come across, right? And in that sense, we're all adults here. Like, why are we wasting our time, right? So in a way, I would really have an open conversation and just with the other party and say, hey, I sense that I have been trying to reach you and get close to you in many situations, and I don't feel like you're getting it, and what's wrong here, right? And really get into that conversation. But if you decided it's not worth it, it's not for you, that's totally fine, right? We can find maybe different person to do it. We can change jobs, we can get new relationship, for example. Yeah, so that would be what I would do. Yeah, I think the key there is not to tolerate what's not working for you if you keep trying. Thank you.
Can you say a little bit more just about that last point? The key is not to over focus on what's not working? Not
to tolerate.
Tolerate, yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think especially if we bring it back to like a teen, conflicts, teen relationships, oftentimes I find it's even more crucial, right? To really point out what's not working if we want to build a trusting and high functional team. Yeah.
Great point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much. That's all the time we have for questions. I'm sure we could keep going. So thank you. And thanks to everyone for bringing questions. And so now we're going to shift modes, but more discussion to come. So this is the part where you get to, there's other things you wanted to discuss, maybe situations that are live for you, hear from peers, synthesize what were your key takeaways from the